It is official. Just a day before the voter registration period is scheduled to end, the Commission on Elections says it will reopen lines for 3 weeks next month. Aside from the extended voter registration, the vaccination of the general public is in the calendar. Authorities say they will prioritize adults and minors with health risks in Metro Manila. And after more than 2 decades, one of the world's greatest fighters, the people's champ Manny Pacquiao, bids farewell to boxing. Those trying to beat the deadline to register for the 2022 elections can heave a sigh of relief. The Commission on Elections is finally extending the registration period in October, but that's only after aspirants have filed their certificates of candidacy. Our Melissa Lopez has the details.
Filipinos get an additional 3-week opportunity to enlist and the chance to vote for the next set of leaders in the May 2022 elections. Poll commissioners unanimously decided Wednesday that voter registration will resume from October 11th until the 30th. Voters may line up at COMELEC offices or mall registration desks until Thursday, September 30th. A week-long break will give way for district offices to receive the certificates of candidacy of politicians looking to join the 2022 race. Applications for first-time voters, transfer of districts, and reactivation will be accepted Mondays to Fridays from 8 in the morning until 5 p.m. COMELEC offices will only offer Saturday processing on October 30th, the last day of registration. Spokesman James Jimenez says the relatively shorter registration hours are more than enough to accommodate those trying to beat the deadline. Filipinos abroad are also given more time to sign up to vote next year. Registration activities in foreign posts will continue until October 14th.
As with any planning, may allowance talaga yan. Basically, what this means is we're gonna dip into that slack time. To do this for the benefit of the people who are asking for it. The public clamor, again, is really very loud.
The House and Senate have passed bills that would mandate COMELEC to grant a 1-month reprieve for last-minute registrants. The Senate even stalled on the poll body's 2022 budget proposal when Chairman Sharif Abbas said last week that the Commission can only allow a 1-week extension.
Huwag naman natin hintayin uli na kung saan yung deadline, doon na naman tayo magpaparehistro. So, para at least hindi rin tayo mahirapan.
Commissioner Rowena Guanzon adds the longer time will allow more Filipinos to exercise their right to vote. Mall-based registration desks will remain an option in October, along with online reactivation for those previously registered but failed to vote in the last 2 elections. More than 63 million Filipinos can vote on May 9th. Melissa Lopez, CNN Philippines.
A party list group welcomes COMELEC's decision to extend the voter registration period, saying it is an opportunity for more young people to voice their concerns by participating in the elections. Our George Quiles has that story.
Aina Perater and Angelique Del Rosario are among hundreds of last-minute registrants in this Quezon City mall. It will be their first time to possibly vote in 2022, such that beating the deadline on September 30th is a must. Perater has booked an appointment online, while Del Rosario takes a chance as a walk-in to line up as early as 1:30 in the morning.
As a millennial, alam naman po natin na mas malaki po yung tulong ng mga kabataan ngayon sa mapagboto. And then, yung masasabi ko lang siguro is vote wisely na lang po.
Kasi diba, yung sa sistema ngayon parang medyo tabingi kasi lalo na ngayon nagkaroon ng pandemic. So, siguro, importante talaga makaboto para kahit pa paano umayos yung sistema at saka malagpasan na itong pandemic kasi sobrang tagal na ang hirap mag-aaral ng online.
Bowing to requests from a number of sectors, the COMELEC has extended the voter registration period for another 3 weeks until the end of October. And Del Rosario says she will convince friends and relatives to register and vote next year.
Yung iba ka pong kaibigan nagparehistro ngayon lang din, tapos yung iba yun, nagkaroon ng chance sa habol kasi na-extend naman po yung ano.
At the COMELEC office in Quezon City, a group carries out a symbolic action to express its thanks for the extended registration period. The group says the move will allow more people to exercise their right to choose their next set of leaders.
Tayo po ay nagpapasalamat sa COMELEC dahil nakinig sila sa padawagan ng kabataang Pilipino. Ilang linggo na po na hindi na mapigil, maputol ang napakahabang pila ng mga taong hindi natutulog para makarehistro.
We would like to request the public na since may possible na yung extension natin, you have to avail the extension. You can go to our nearest election offices or even malls na magparehistro tayo.
After September 30th, voter registration will resume on October 11 up to the 30th to give way for the filing of certificates of candidacy on October 1 to 8 for those running in the May elections. George Hiles, CNN Philippines.
If elections were held earlier this month, Davao City Mayor Sara Duterte would emerge as the country's new president, at least based on the latest Pulse-Asia survey. The survey shows 20% or 2 out of 10 Filipino adults want Sara to succeed her father. Sara, however, has said she would not pursue the presidency after President Duterte declared his bid for the vice presidency. In a similar survey last June, Sara was also a top choice with 28%. Meanwhile, trailing the younger Duterte are former Senator Bongbong Marcos with 15%, Manila Mayor Isko Moreno with 13%, and Senator Manny Pacquiao with 12%. Marcos has yet to announce his political plans, while both Moreno and Pacquiao have launched their presidential bids. Sharing third place are Senator Grace Poe with 9%, Vice President Leni Robredo with 8%, and Senator Ping Lacson with 6%. For Vice President, Senate President Tito Soto is the most preferred choice among 25% of the respondents, bumping President Duterte down to second place with 14%. Also in the second spot are Moreno and Marcos with 12% each. They are followed by Pacquiao and fellow Senator Bongo, who each secured 7%. This survey was conducted using face-to-face interviews from September 6th to 11th among 2,400 respondents nationwide. It is the end of the road for the Pambansang Kamao. Boxer turned Senator Manny Pacquiao hangs up his gloves after 26 years in the boxing limelight. Pacquiao's announcement ended speculations about his retirement. Just last week, the senator declared he is gunning for the presidency. He accepted the nomination to be the standard bearer of a faction of the ruling party, PDP Laban. Pacquiao is reportedly among those being eyed as a presidential bet under the opposition coalition, One Sambayan. Like other declarations, however, nothing is set in stone just yet until we see them filing their certificates of candidacy beginning Friday. Pacquiao was not hailed as the people's champ for nothing. His victories brought honor to the country and united Filipinos here at home and abroad. Our Pauline Versosa looks back on his amazing boxing journey.
It is difficult for me to accept that my time as a boxer is over. Today, I am announcing my retirement.
One of the greatest boxers of all time is hanging up his gloves. In a video statement entitled Goodbye Boxing, the 42-year-old Manny Pacquiao bid an emotional farewell following an illustrious career that spanned more than 2 decades. The people's champ walking away from the sport that made him a source of pride for the country as he sets his sights on his biggest fight yet in the coming 2022 presidential elections.
I will never forget what I have done and accomplished in my life. As I hang up my boxing gloves, I would like to thank the whole world, especially the Filipino people, for supporting Manny Pacquiao.
Just last August, Pacquiao absorbed a stunning defeat against Cuban fighter Yordenis Ugas in what has turned out to be his last dance. Despite the loss, the Pac-Man's legacy remains as the first and only boxer in history to win 12 major world titles across 8 different weight divisions, with a total record of 62 wins with 39 knockouts, 8 losses, and 2 draws. Once hailed as pound-for-pound king and among the highest-paid athletes in the world, Pacquiao has defeated world champions and legends, including Juan Manuel Marquez, Ricky Hatton, and Oscar De La Hoya. Fans all over the world thank Manny for his contributions to the sport, saying he will go down as a legend. In Metro Manila, streets would no longer go quiet on a Pacquiao fight day.
Sa papanahon na siguro kasi may edad na rin naman na siya eh.
Para sa akin, okay na rin yun.
Bakit siya?
Marami na siyang pera po. At saka marami na rin siya natulungan. Marami na rin siya ari-ari yan. Okay na rin yun. Kasi para sa kanya din yan.
Sa palagay ko po, hindi nakakayanin niya. Bukod sa nabago yung estilo niya, ay hindi nakakayanan ng kalusugan niya. Kaya po ang suggest ko sa kanya, magretiro na lang siya, ipagpatuloy kung gusto talaga siya sa politika.
Pacquiao already made the same decision to retire in 2016 when he was a senatorial aspirant, only to head back inside the ring months after. But Pacquiao says this is the time to support a great number of potential boxers who are younger and can also give glory to the country.
I just heard the final bell. Tapos na ang boxing. Maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat.
Pauline Verzosa, CNN Philippines.
Still ahead, a check on how netizens are reacting to Manny Pacquiao's retirement. We'll read some of the comments online. And the Okta research group says the country is beating the more ferocious Delta variant, citing a slowdown in cases. Details next here on CNN Philippines. Stay tuned.
As Consul of Belarus, my main responsibility was to see to it that the citizens that were in the Philippines were able to get back to their country. With my busy schedule, I discovered MX3 is a big factor in improving our health, and I've been taking it for more than 7 years already. I'm Annette Ablan, the Honorary Consul of the Republic of Belarus to the Philippines.
Mahalagang paalala, ang MX3 capsule ay hindi gamot at hindi dapat gamitin pang gamot sa anumang uri ng sakit.
Nagsimula sa isang pangarap.
Ako na po, ma'am.
Ika'y tutulungang ibahin ang buhay na nakasanayan.
Naka 24 months ka na sa pag-ibig.
May panghulog na ako sa motor.
Uy, bagong motor!
Gagawa ng hakbang para mapaghandaan ng forever.
Ka, ha?
At harapin ang bukas ng may maaasahan. Simulan mo na ang forever mo ngayon. Fund your forever with Pag-ibig Fund.
Register today!
Listo at ganado ang baby ko sa vet-approved Nutri-Chunks with active boost and prebiotics na pampalisto. Made with real meat with essential nutrients to help them grow healthy and happy. Listo, ganado sa Nutri-Chunks.
Welcome back to Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines. An independent research group sees a glimmer of light in the battle against what it calls is the Delta wave. Okta Research tells CNN Philippines the end game for the more infectious Delta variant is within reach. The group notes a downward trend in infections in NCR+, composed of Metro Manila, Bulacan, Cavite, Laguna, and Rizal.
This is definitely a trend in the entire country, because what we're seeing is that the reproduction number in the NCR has decreased to less than 1. It's actually around 0.94. And it's not just in the NCR, but also in Calabarzon and Central Luzon, where the reproduction number has actually decreased to less than 1. That includes Cavite, Laguna, Batangas, Bulacan, etc. So the trend is definitely going down in these regions, and of course in Cebu City, in Cebu area, it's going down. There are some provinces where the trend is still increasing, and we should really take note of these provinces because these are areas of concern that we should be focusing on, and probably we need to allocate more vaccines to those regions.
Okta, however, notes that Metro Manila's healthcare utilization rate remains at high risk. Now, the alert level 4 restrictions here in Metro Manila will lapse tomorrow, but local chief executives are divided on whether or not to maintain the status quo. Quezon City Mayor Joy Belmonte wants to extend the current measures for at least another week to make sure the downward trend in cases is sustained. Belmonte adds the city remains at high risk as hospitals are still full. San Juan Mayor Francis Zamora shares the same view.
Mas bumaba pa ito ng konti na para talagang by the time we shift to alert level, definitely handang-handa na tayo sapagkat hindi naman natin gusto na negosyo, industriya na pakaroon na sa high risk masyado. No? So I would rather see first if we can further bring down the numbers, and then if and when that happens, dun siguro ako sasang-ayon na bumaba tayo sa alert level 3.
But for the local chief executives of Mandaluyong and Navotas, the slowdown in cases means region is ready for more relaxed measures. Menchi Abalos and Toby Tiangco say lowering the alert level next month will also help the economy. Now, the National Vaccine Operations Center has yet to issue guidelines after the government green-lighted the inoculation of the rest of the adult population and those aged 12 to 17 next month. But the health department says minors with health risks will be prioritized. Kalin Bonkin has more.
Edna Bautista wants a COVID-19 vaccine for her 13-year-old daughter, Janelle. While adults in their household are fully vaccinated, Edna is worried for her children.
Para mayroon na po rin po siyang protection, kagaya po sa akin. Maganda pong nababakunahan na po kasi hindi po 100% na matatamaan na siya ng sakit.
Janelle has also decided to get the vaccine once available.
Para po makalabas na din ako. O baka din po mawaan ako ng may mga sakit.
Almost 22% of the country's 110 million population got at least one dose of COVID-19 vaccine. With the expected 114 million vaccine doses coming by October to December, the government has decided to inoculate the general population and the younger group next month. But the health department says, considering the supply, the remaining unvaccinated adults and children at risk of getting severe infection are the priority. This means among the younger population, 12 to 17-year-olds with existing illness will get the vaccine first. The Pediatric Infectious Disease Society of the Philippines will give a list of illnesses qualified for priority pediatric vaccination. And just like the inoculation of adults with comorbidity, there are requirements to prove that a child is sick.
Kailangan may medical clearance either from their attending physicians or their specialists. Maaari naman po yung doktor lang, yung doktor natin dun sa kanilang local area, pero magbibigay po tayo ng checklist.
May mga medical complexity, may mga heart, respiratory, kidney, at saka may mga iba-ibang problema.
Both parents and children should also agree to the vaccination.
Kailangan din po natin na may guardian sila kapag pupunta sila dun sa bakunahan.
Only Pfizer and Moderna are allowed for age 12 to 17 in the Philippines. Vaccination among the younger population is expected to begin on October 15 in Metro Manila. Other regions will follow after 2 weeks. Caroline Bonkin, CNN Philippines.
The country now sits at the bottom of a study that measures economic resilience and response to the COVID-19 crisis. The Philippines ranked last out of 53 nations with a score of 40.2 in Bloomberg's latest COVID resilience ranking. Malacanang says it is not surprised that Southeast Asian countries place low while developed nations ranked high in the list. The Palace points out that vaccines are key to defeating the virus and echoed the President's United Nations speech that rich countries are hoarding doses. The report comes after Senator Joel Villanueva's call to abolish the interagency task force, which leads the country's COVID-19 response. Villanueva says the IATF is, quote, not working and that local governments are doing better in response efforts. Now, the country may have been better prepared to deal with the pandemic had Congress passed a bill filed by the late Senator Miriam Defensor Santiago 8 years ago. That's what her widower and former Undersecretary June Santiago believes. The late senator filed the Pandemic and All Hazards Preparedness Act in 2013 in the wake of the MERS-CoV outbreak in the Middle East. June Santiago believes things might have been different if the senator was still alive. Today is the 5th anniversary of the late senator dubbed as the Iron Lady of Asia.
Sayang nga yung bill niya sa pandemic, hindi na-ipass noon kung hindi pinakinabangan ng husto ng bayan yung bill niya sa pandemic. Nakapagprepara sana ang bansa at mga tao para dito sa ganitong klaseng problema. Pero hindi napasa ng Congress yun, iba-ibang inasikaso, pero sayang.
Family and friends remember the late senator in an intimate gathering earlier today. She died of cancer in 2016. A lawyer representing an official of government medical supplier Pharmaly Pharmaceuticals considers filing charges against Senator Risa Ontiveros and two of her staff. In a Senate hearing last week, Ontiveros presented a witness who was supposedly a Pharmaly warehouse personnel who claimed that the firm's face shields were tampered and substandard. Lawyer Ferdinand Topacio says the senator's staff bribed the witness to make those allegations. Topacio adds that in a video sent by Pharmaly, another warehouse worker denied the witness's claims. Topacio says he and his team vetted the worker and obtained his affidavit.
Next step po namin dito, this is not just for publicity purposes, but in the next few days, we will try to develop a case and bring it before the proper government agency. Since Senator Ontiveros is a public official, baka sa ombudsman or kung ang jurisdiction ay sa Department of Justice, we will bring it there for proper disposition.
Coming up on Newsnight, a global boxing legend announced that he's taking the gloves off for good to focus on the 2022 elections. And today, we remember to check in on matters of the heart, health-wise. Details on this after a quick break.
When it comes to heroes, kahit kailan hindi nagkulang ang Pilipinas. Mga taong matapang, lumalaban at bumabangon kahit may kinakaharap na problema. O yung mga tinatawag nating never say die attitude. I'm Cristela Bello, your 2021 Ginebra San Miguel calendar girl, here to show you just how far a ganado sa buhay attitude can take you. Kaya samahan niyo akong kilalanin ng mga taong pwede nating pagkuhanan ng inspirasyon lalo na sa panahon ngayon. Here on Bagong Tapang Stories. Help comes at the most unexpected time from the most unexpected places. And for filmmaker Peter Polillo, it came when he and his wife were struggling to survive during the pandemic. Dati, sunod-sunod ang pag-shoot ng commercials, wedding videos, at iba pa. Pero dahil sa COVID-19, he lost his source of income. Pati ang kanyang asawa na empleyado ng isang manufacturing company ay nawalan din ng trabaho. While others might have given up, Peter did not. Ginastos niya ang kanyang savings. Binenta na rin niya ang kanyang kotse at camera equipment. Tinulungan pa si Peter ng kanyang boss na nagbigay sa kanya ng pagkakataong bumangon. Nagtayo siya ng isang milk tea business at within 2 months, 6 branches at 4 franchises na ang milk tea house ni Peter. Nagbigay si Peter ng trabaho sa mga out-of-school youth at iba pang hindi makahanap ng pagkakakitaan sa oras na ito. He also started the 10 Drinks, 10 Hospitals project na nagbibigay sa COVID-19 frontliners ng libreng milk tea. With just a little bit of help, Peter went from being in debt to being a success story. Everywhere in the Philippines, there's an unsung hero whose story is just waiting to be told. Just goes to show that even in our day-to-day life, anyone can embody that bagong tapang spirit. I'm Cristela Bello, your 2021 GSM calendar girl. See you next time for more stories na nagpapakita na kahit may bagong hamon sa buhay, may bagong tapang sa One Ginebra Nation.
You're watching Newsnight. I'm Pia Ontiveros. Back to one of our top stories. 42-year-old senator and boxing champion Manny Pacquiao announcing he is stepping out of the ring, and he's getting tributes from all over the sports world. Quoting Pacquiao's tweet that reveals his retirement, Yordenis Ugas regarded him as a legend. The Cuban athlete was his last opponent before saying goodbye to the sport. Pacquiao failed to regain his super welterweight belt from Ugas following a unanimous decision loss on August 21. The World Boxing Association also recognized Pacquiao for his contribution to the sport, as its president posted a tweet in gratitude. Just a few hours before this, Gilberto Mendoza tweeted about how the People's Champ was named the WBA Centennial Champion. Pacquiao is the first recipient of this honor. Other personalities overseas paid tribute to Pacquiao on Twitter. The Fox 59 news anchor wished him luck while predicting that the boxer turned politician would soon be leading the country. But while some netizens support Pacquiao's decision, others doubt if his move is final, or if his decision is final, as he may return to the sport if he loses the presidential race in 2022. Some social media users also question his capability to seek the highest office in the country. A magazine reality show is returning to bring science and research closer to Filipinos. The Science and Technology Department is relaunching its television program, CNCCat. That is after the show found a new home here on CNN Philippines. CNCCat was launched in 2019 but was put on hold when the COVID-19 pandemic broke out. DOST officials and CNN Philippines President Benji Ramos made it official during the contract signing Wednesday afternoon. DOST STII Director Richard Burgos and CNCCat co-host Diego Ramos share what viewers can expect from the show.
Well, it's different because we have a wisher, all right, and that wisher can be anyone. And people can relate to the wisher in many ways. We'll expect more people to appreciate what science can do to very concrete persons who are our wishers, and how science can help them improve their lives, or if it's a company, then improve their processes and also their income potential.
It gave me a larger perspective of how and what science really can do to the lives of people. Marami pong tao sa iba't ibang lugar ng Pilipinas na marami pong ideas na magaganda na talaga pong pwede makabago ng buhay nila mismo at ng buhay po ng ibang tao.
CNCCat will air on CNN Philippines this October. The Beatle, who sang With a Little Help from My Friends, got just that for his latest music video. CNN's David Daniel has that and more in today's Hollywood Minute.
Ringo Starr's video for the latest single off his EP, Change the World, features Kids in the Spotlight, a non-profit that helps foster care youth tell their stories through film. The kids also helped develop the concept for the video and assisted in the directing, lighting, choreography, and other areas. Zac Brown Band's The Comeback Tour is on hold after Brown tested positive for COVID-19. Brown broke the news on social media, saying he's putting the health and safety of our fans and crew first. He thanked the fans and frontline workers and promised the band will resume the tour as soon as it's safe.
We always do get through it, and we're going to get through it again.
Tornado! Everybody out! Tornado! Follow me this way. Everybody hurry!
Are you sure this is the safest place to be?
Here's your first look at 13 minutes. That's how long people in a heartland town have to find shelter when a tornado hits their community. 13 Minutes lands in theaters October 29th, on VOD November 19th, and DVD December 7th. In Hollywood, I'm David Daniel.
Well, today we look into matters of the heart. Data from the World Health Organization show that illnesses surrounding this muscular organ are responsible for over 17 million deaths every year around the world. And here in the Philippines, the first half of the year saw more than 56,000 lives taken because of these diseases. On World Heart Day, it might be a good idea to have a change of heart over some of your daily habits. Try working out more and reducing stress to keep that beat in your chest in check. It is 87 more days before Christmas, and that is it for now. Thank you for watching. I'll see you again at 7 for News.ph. I'm Pia Ontiveros for Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines.
Radio Philippines Network, Radyo Ronda, DXKT Davao, member, kapisanan ng mga broadcaster ng Pilipinas.
In every crisis, there are struggles and there are silver linings. While this pandemic has quite a number of negatives, many are looking for upsides such as learnings and a true appreciation of the things that matter most. Today, we'll look at the impact of this pandemic, especially in the growth and development of our children. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez. You're watching MedTalk Health Talk on CNN Philippines, where your care comes first. Children aren't the worst hit by the virus, but they risk being among the biggest victims of the pandemic. To talk more about this, let's welcome our guests. With us is Dr. Catherine Baltazar Braganza. She's a neurodevelopmental pediatrician from UST Hospital. Also joining us is Ms. Suzalyn Pascual. She's the president of the Philippine Association of Speech Pathologists. Thank you both for joining us on this very important episode on MedTalk Health Talk today. Now, let's first talk about some of the developmental delays in children, specifically because the COVID-19 pandemic has caused young children to miss opportunities for developmental milestones. Now, I'll start first with Dr. Kat. Have you met patients who have seen some developmental delays that may be caused perhaps by this current situation, the pandemic?
I see a lot of patients in my clinic wherein the children are usually exposed to gadgets because the parents are also working at home, so they can't help but just give gadgets to their children. And also, I see a lot of children missing their social milestones because they don't get to go out, so they don't get to play with other children. So when they see other people, they get they would have anxiety.
Now let's talk about more developmental delays in general, which may happen when a child lags behind their peers in terms of emotional, mental, or even physical growth. Ms. Suzy, in what areas of development can children have these delays? Or anong mga what are the more common areas that parents may see these delays in their children?
Usually in all areas, actually. Like if a child has limited interaction with peers or even with adults, they may eventually have like difficulty with comprehension. And then with that comes also the difficulty with expression. So how can they be able to express something if they don't know it? Right. And then what Dr. Braganza mentioned a while ago was the social communication. Because of the limited exposure with other kids and their difficulty in having other people to interact with, that is also compromised.
I'll talk to Dr. Kat about that. So let's inform the parents who are watching or our viewers who are watching kung at what age ba dapat ang isang bata ay able to talk. Let's start first from what type of sounds they can utter to actual comprehensible speech.
It actually starts early on. So as early as 5 to 6 months, actually even younger at 3 months, they would respond to social smiles. So when the parents smiles at them, they should be responding with a smile. And then about the same time, they would start to coo and be quieted when the parent would talk to them. So as they grow bigger, at 5 to 6 months, we expect babbling. So babbling is the production of consonant and vowels of ba, da. And then by 8 to 9 months, they would have repetitive babbling, like ba, 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 da, da, da. And by 11 months, they should be saying their first word.
Before we go on further with the discussion, I just would like to remind our viewers now all of these developmental milestones are assuming that the hearing of your child is normal as well, because there's a correlation with how normal the hearing of the child is and how quickly they can develop their speech. Now, moving on, I'd like to ask Ms. Suzy, Dr. Kat mentioned a lot of milestones. Are there any activities that the parents watching can do to enhance this development process sa mga anak nila?
There are many ways of facilitating their language, the language skills of the child at home. But one thing that I usually teach the parents when I do webinars is to do the what we call language stimulation techniques. And one of those is commenting. Like when you're building the vocabulary of the child, you try to describe something. But when I say describe, it's not just yung parang robotic na nagsasalita ka lang like a newscaster. No, it's not reporting, but it's more of putting it into context in such a way that the child will get interested with the concepts or with the words that you're teaching them.
At a certain age, usually by the time a child is ready to go to school, he or she should have already reached some social as well as emotional development milestones, like playing with others, singing, as well as dancing. But many kids are missing out. A decision, of course, to keep them safe from COVID-19. Dr. Kat, what are the effects then to a child's overall well-being sa ating situation ngayon?
Actually, as we mentioned, there's the social-emotional impact. So when they go to school, it's not just education that they're gaining from school. They gain friends, the social development is developed, and then they also get to move a lot. So because of the current situation, also the physical activities of the physical activity of children are also affected.
And then we also have to address also the cognitive developmental skills that are being missed out, and these are what children use to think, read, learn, remember, as well as solve problems. Now again, some children may experience delays in developing their intellectual function as well as their adaptive behavior. Dr. Kat, could there be reasons in which the circumstances of the pandemic can affect this area naman of a child's development?
Yeah, because when they go out, like what Ms. Susie said, it's not just the specific skills like talking that they get to see. When they get to play, they also get to develop fine motor skills when they hold on the toys. Since right now they just see their classmates through the screen, so they don't get to develop the fine motor skills. And also, there's a lot of things that could arise from a simple play between a child. So not just the gross motor, because they get to move, they get to touch things, also the communication, so develop.
When we return, we'll talk about the risk factors of developmental delays in children during the pandemic. We're together in health. This is MedTalk Health Talk on CNN Philippines.
Quincentenary Faith Rewind.
Ferdinand Magellan was seen as the main propagator of the Christian faith in the historic Easter Mass in the island of Limasawa. After the Holy Mass, he spearheaded the erection of the cross in the highest elevation of the island.
KBP marks 500 years of Christianity and this station.
Malaki ang papel ng mga sibilyan sa pagsugpo ng terorismo. Isa na dito ay ang pagsasabuhay ng tinatawag na culture of security.
Ano nga ba ang culture of security?
May nakita?
Dapat
magsalita.
Sa culture of security, tandaan natin ang 4 na bagay: volunteer, report, remind, at participate.
Makipag-ugnayan sa Task Force Davao, idaya lang 0917-131-4333, 0999-227-1111 at 082-224-0911.
COVID-19 has affected children in many ways, directly as well as indirectly. Now, beyond the risk of getting sick, their emotional, social, and mental well-being have been impacted by the pandemic. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and you're watching MedTalk Health Talk on CNN Philippines. We are your connection to healthcare. Now, depending on your children's age group, their daily habits may have changed due to staying indoors during the pandemic. Children aged 0 to 5 may be at risk of lacking the developmental milestones and social skills as a result of their limited interaction with other children. Ma'am Susie, how can parents make up for this given the limited exposure to others?
They could probably use themselves as the parents to be the peers of their children, and they could make pretend tasks like playing, for example, mimicking the games that we usually play outdoors. For example, hide and seek. You can do that in the house. Or why don't we go with the Philippine games like yung mga tumbang preso, yung mga ganon, or simple bowling games that would enhance or provide opportunities for them to do turn-taking tasks.
Now, Dr. Kat, is there an age group na most at risk in this current pandemic situation that we are in? Most at risk developmental-wise? Because we have 0 to 5, 6 to 12, 13 to 17. Is there an age group na most vulnerable dito?
I think since the rapid brain development happens at 0 to 5 years old, so I think they're the ones who are most at risk because of this pandemic.
Okay. So, kung 0 to 5 ang most at risk dito, are there any red flags that you could share with us para sa mga parents na mga merong 0 to 5 years old? Anong mga red flags that may pinpoint to a developmental delay?
So, one red flag, so I think that's the easiest that the parents would get from this. So, if they don't get to walk by 18 months, so they have to seek consultation at 1. So earlier milestones would be difficulty of holding their head. So they should have a good head control by 3 months. They should be able to sit independently by 10 months. And then they should stand on one leg by 3 years, because that we're looking at the balance. And then, so that's adaptive domain. Actually, adaptive or the self-help, that's the usual thing that Filipinos are kind of late, because we usually feed them, we usually dress them up. So I think the pandemic would be the best time to help the children eat on their own. So by 3 years, they should be eating on their own. And then they should start dressing and undressing on their own. And then for school-age children, the red flags would be slow to remember facts, slow to learn new skills, or relies heavily on memorization, because if they rely heavily on memorization, they might be having comprehension concerns, so they won't understand what is asked, and poor coordination or unaware of physical surroundings.
Okay. So marami talagang red flags na dapat ma-watch out yung mga parents. Ano? Now, speaking of school-age kids, because schools have been completely closed for more than a year now, due to the pandemic. Now, Ma'am Susie, what are some of the more common problems that we are seeing among children given itong online learning situation natin?
All right. The most common that I have seen so far, and has been reported by some of the clients that I'm handling, is their attention span. How could they focus and how could they hold on longer to the classes? For example, even if you say the class would run for 1 hour, in person or in the classroom, it's okay because you get to interact with the teacher or you get to move a little. But with online classes, you are glued in your seats and you have to pay attention to the teacher. But knowing that you're looking at the screen with so many windows, you get distracted with so much movement on the other windows. So that's one of the problems. And another thing is that when a kid is not able to process well, it is somehow perceived as a problem already because they couldn't pay attention, they couldn't focus longer. But we have to recognize that there are some kids who would need movement, who would need to move a little just to process some of the things. That's why most of them are having a hard time, or sometimes the parents are complaining that my child cannot finish this task, or my child cannot stay longer. But For some schools, anyway, I've learned that they have allowed some allowances for the kids. Like they could turn off the video, and then if they need to move to stand up a little while still listening, it's allowed for as long as the child is still paying attention to the teacher in class.
Coming up, we'll discuss how to help your child continue the development milestones and learnings they need for their future. So stay with us. Your health is our mission. You're watching MedTalk Health Talk on CNN Philippines.
Narito na ang pag-asa. Narito na ang bakuna. Pag nagpabakuna at patuloy pa ring nagmask, hugas at iwas, lalong maiingatan ang sarili at ang kapwa para unti-unti nating mabalikan ang buhay na kinasasabikan. Sa pagpapabakuna, ingat-angat tayong lahat. Ingat-angat, bakuna lahat. A message from PMA, PSMID, and kapisanan ng mga broadcaster ng Pilipinas.
Quincentenary Faith Rewind.
Ferdinand Magellan died in the hands of Dato Lapu-Lapu in the Battle of Mactan. Spanish navigator Juan Sebastian Elcano took command of the voyage, which finally reached the Spice Islands. To date, the expedition is also known as Magellan-Elcano Expedition.
KBP marks 500 years of Christianity and this station.
Despite the lockdown, there are still ways to achieve your children's developmental milestones. This is especially important for children from ages 0 to 5. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and this is MedTalk Health Talk on CNN Philippines. We're your connection to healthcare. Serve and return is like a game of tennis between a child and a caregiver. Now, the child serves by reaching out for attention, such as babbling, gesturing, or making faces. Then the caregiver returns the serve with attention. Ma'am Susie, why is this important for a child's development?
Because that would ensure that there is communication going on. Because we do not, in our community, we don't just rely on somebody dictating something to us. So the back and forth, or sabihin natin, it's like a tennis, diba? The back and forth exchange of ideas, of information, makes communication fruitful.
Dr. Kat, how can this practice of serve and return be done through everyday simple activities?
First, it's important that the parents would know what this serve and turn means. So it actually goes through steps. First, you have to notice the serve and share the child's attention. For example, if you notice the child is looking at a toy, you have to return the serve by supporting and encouraging. Like, are you looking at your mobile? Is it nice? Is it colorful? And then give it a name. So if the child is looking at the mobile, so you can name the animals in the mobile, and then take turns and wait. So you have to wait for the response, and then the interaction will go on. And then practice the beginnings and endings of each serve and turn.
Before the pandemic, parents have been trying to get their children away from their devices, their gadgets. But now experts are saying that they have to embrace this technology naman. Ma'am Susie, how do we reconcile this? How can parents realize the importance right now of gadgets, but at the same time also realize the importance of investing time in their kids' development?
You use gadget for a limited time. The extra gadget time, aside from the online classes that the child has to undergo. So, for example, if the child has spent like an hour online in the morning, maybe you can allot time for gadget use just for 30 minutes in the afternoon. But still, it would be better if you sit beside your child, you play a game that would still encourage the turn-taking, as what we have been talking about, because that's a very important one, the social communication part of development.
Now, I'd like to touch on how to cope with a child's mental stress during this pandemic situation, because the ongoing stress, the fear, the uncertainty of this pandemic has affected all of us. But many children and teens have an especially hard time coping emotionally. Now, let's first discuss some of the signs of stress among children during this period. Dr. Kat, how can parents help their children? How can they first spot na meron na silang problema emotionally because of stress, and how can they help their children deal with these?
How to spot it? You have to check the child's behavior. If there are changes in the behavior, like if the child become less talkative or would want to play on their own or go to their room more often, so you'll have to talk to the child. Why is he doing that? And then second, if there are changes in the eating habits, some of the children don't want to eat anymore when they are so sad, or they want to eat more. So you have to check that as well. And the sleeping habit. So if they are too sad, sometimes they're having difficulties in sleeping.
We're glad you could join us on MedTalk Health Talk. Thank you very much, neurodevelopmental pediatrician Dr. Catherine Baltazar Braganza and speech-language pathologist Ms. Suzalyn Pascual. While COVID-19 is sparing our children from getting sick, it's not being so kind on them when it comes to their developmental skills. Still, there's a lot of ways to encourage our children's growth during this pandemic. In fact, the amount of family time we have now is a good place to start. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and this is MedTalk Health Talk on CNN Philippines. We're here to build a healthier future for you.